Mr. Chairman, respectfully, I would ask as a matter of parliamentary procedure that we refrain from insults to the President of the United States. I would say this, if a Republican or a Democrat, it's a matter of courtesy, it's a matter of rule, it's a matter of our parliamentary practices. Moving forward, Mr. Wadu, would you like to respond to Representative Strong's questions as to where to put migrants?
There's been a population decrease in the United States since 2010, and COVID only made it worse. This country is going to need more people across this country. There are thousands of businesses looking for workers. We have a huge need of workforce, even in the state of New York. We launched a website asking, through the Department of Labor, asking businesses who wanted to hire folks to sign up on the website. 18,000 jobs were listed on that website within a matter of a few days. There's even more at this point that are being listed there. There was a number of things that that your colleague mentioned that were just not really founded in truth. There's a huge need, if you speak to your partners in the Midwest, if you speak to your colleagues across the country and actually speak to the needs that they're seeing on the ground, they're going to tell you that there is a huge need for population.
Or even the suggestion that all immigrants somehow are thieves and robbers and unsavory bad people. Is that's a misnomer and a dangerously incorrect statement to make?
Yeah, that's incredibly incorrect. Immigrants make communities safer across the United States, not just in New York. And that's verified by data that you can even speak to, law enforcement in New York on.
And on that, let me follow up. I want to start by reiterating the fact that, is it not a fact that every migrant released into our communities, including New York City, is vetted by a CBP? Every single one completes biometrics, and it's run against our databases.
Yes. And as they arrived at Port Authority last year, when they were being bused, in most cases at that time in the early days of the busing from Texas, under misleading
So these are not people that are just being brought in, let in, and they're not checked?
No, they were processed and are given a packet of information with their immigration, pretty much registering them through the immigration system at the border.
How would more federal investments in our legal pathways and the Shelter and Services Program better help local communities? Are you aware that all the House Republicans voted to slash the funding that's being sent to New York for this purpose?
Yes, and that's a horrible mistake. As you heard from your colleagues on the dais, everyone keeps talking about cuts and cuts and cuts. But the folks on this dais can actually stop those cuts by investing more resources into the solutions that have been proven to work. The FEMA program with the ESFP or the SSP program, those programs are working. We need more resources in them so that we don't have to have these conversations about cuts or not cuts.
Hence my insistence in every conversation we have about exercising civility, exercising facts, and not political brinksmanship to score points. Listen, this is a real issue. This is a real issue, and I applaud my members for trying to find solutions, but I will likewise caution us to avoid the just brinksmanship of gaining points. Listen, I don't think you can blame any one particular person for any of the issues that are here. These issues have been around a long time. I think we all acknowledge that. But I know one thing for a fact. As long as we continue to have this tug of war and political gamesmanship, it makes it more and more difficult for us to ever give the relief that I think these gentlemen, every one of you at the table, is asking for. I implore our members to get back on track to finding solutions and not pointing fingers. New York City, we've heard Republicans say that New York City is cutting parts of its city services budget due to the migrant crisis. However, they've conveniently left out is that Mayor Adams also attributes the cuts to the ending of federal pandemic aid. So it's my understanding that the cuts to the budget and freezing police hiring do not fall solely on the immigrants, but also cuts to pandemic aid. Can you put New York City's budget in context in that response, in that regard.
New York City's budget is over $110 billion. It has an enormous amount of money that comes in from the state and the federal government. When the administration came in back in 2022, they were seeing that 5 years out, there was going to be a deficit of $21 billion, of which, this is before there was an increase in asylum seekers coming to New York, over $5 billion was COVID relief efforts, and then $16 billion were contracts that needed to get secured labor contracts. So in the grand context of this, the deficit that the city of New York was facing had very little, and currently right now it's a very small fraction of the deficit. And just to clarify one thing, the president of my friend sitting right next to me mentioned the 5 firefighters per firehouse. And not every firehouse has had that for a long time. And I think it's important that we talk about this in this context because this has been many years issue. And the City Council of New York has been fighting to move that forward, but has not been successful in it because we need more funding. And if we were able to get more funding from the feds and the state to do that, that is important. But I don't want us to be misleading in the sense of saying, because of this financial crunch we were in.
Thank you. My time is far expired. As I yield back, Mr. Chairman, if you would just indulge me for a second to thank all of the committee members. Whether we agree philosophically or ideologically, it does not take away from the fact that we all love our country. We all love the strength that our country brings and builds. And I thank each of you for your commitment, particularly our police and law enforcement and firefighters who stand up every day, notwithstanding party, race, or ideological differences, to protect the people of our great country. So thank you for your service.